Good morning.
Good morning.
Anthony, thanks for taking the time to visit with me today. We're visiting with Anthony Babineaux, and I don't actually know your title. Tell me your title with UL.
So my title is Chief of Staff for the baseball program. It's a Director of Operations title, same thing. I'm in charge of the business side of our baseball program, so everything A to Z involved with the program that doesn't happen on the field, that's me. I'm in charge of it. I was on the field in a coaching role for first 25 years of my career. This is year 32 now. Since 2019 is when I moved into the office on the business side of things. So just take care of everything from our budget to our equipment to our ordering to our player eligibility to not player recruitment as far as identifying talent, but recruitment in the sense when they come on campus, setting up visits, all meals for our players, help out with community service for our players. Just, as I said, anything A to Z that pertains to the program that's not actually on the field coaching comes through my office.
Sounds like 5 jobs in one. And I know there's probably some great stories in there and some challenges that happened during the year. We'll get into that. And really what we want to talk about is this is a podcast about leadership. Mm-hmm. We've talked to a lot of business leaders. We've talked to a lot of our field employees, the employees in the office here. And one of the things that really shines and comes through is leadership or mentorship that they've received throughout their career. And it usually comes to the top of the surface after you start talking. So I want to talk to you about your whole career. Talked about any mentors or leaders that were in your realm as you were coming up that you pull from that experience each day when you make decisions.
Right.
Lately, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. As we get older, we reflect a little bit on our life. And I've been writing a book to tell my kids and my grandkids about dad's life and mom's life and my life before they knew me. And it's been really fun. And I've been remembering some stories that I had forgotten and getting those down and really enjoying it. So if you would, let's go back to how Anthony became who he is today, and let's talk about your life.
Yeah. So, I'm from here, born in Baton Rouge, but moved here to Lafayette, Scott, Carencro area when I was 8 years old. My parents were from here. We were in Baton Rouge for a job that my dad had followed. The company sold, moved to Dallas, came back to Lafayette. So, raised here in the Carencro, Scott area, went to Carencro High School, went to UL. From there, I was fortunate enough to be able to play baseball for, back then, USL for 4 years, from 1991 to 1994. And when I finished playing, I didn't have a chance to play any professional baseball, but I wanted to coach, or I think I wanted to coach. It was something that interested me. Had good coaches while I was playing all the way up, whether it be, a specific coach in Little League or American Legion baseball, high school baseball when I played college. So kind of had an idea that I wanted to coach. So I had another year of school left before getting my degree. At that time in 1994, it was when Coach Robichaux came over to UL from McNeese as the head coach. So I got with Coach Robe. I told him I had another year of school left, but I wanted to stay on as an undergrad assistant coach if he'd allow me to. Well, he did, thankfully. And so that 95 baseball season, I worked as an undergrad assistant coach, a student coach, and did anything and everything, as you can imagine, as a student coach that needed to be done with the program, from the field work to just cleaning this up, cleaning that up, helping to build this, just anything that was needed. And back then, this was 1995, so back then there were only 2 positions on the baseball program that were funded: the head coach and one assistant coach. So everything else was, for the most part, volunteer type positions. But someone could fulfill those roles and actually, be on the field coaching, be in the coaching boxes during games in the spring. So I was able to coach first base that first season while I was there, just kind of learning from Coach Robe and our other assistant. And then I got my degree in the fall of 95. And the 96 season, I worked as a volunteer assistant coach. Back then, every baseball program in the country, ours, Texas A&M's, Penn State, USC, it didn't matter. You had three paid coaching positions available and a volunteer assistant for 4 countable coaches. So I was our volunteer assistant in 96, and then I was hired full-time in 97. And thankfully, I have been parking in the same spot, so to speak, for work for the last 32 years from 1997. Yeah, it has been it was a great opportunity for me then, and, to grow and advance throughout the program and department to get to the spot that I am now, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I know that there's not too many people in the athletic realm, that have been able to do what I've done as far as stay at the same spot, my alma mater, my hometown, and be here for my whole professional career. So that's something that, I feel very, very blessed to have been a part of.
Oh yeah, in the coaching realm, who was it? The great philosopher Bum Phillips. He said there's 2 kind of coaches: coaches that's been fired and coaches that are gonna get fired.
Right.
It's funny. I love those Bum Phillips quotes that pop up every once in a while. He certainly had a way with words. So you obviously had the work ethic, and you had the yes and attitude is what we look at. We look in here for people to work offshore, because in our business, having a paramedic offshore is a luxury. Mm-hmm. It's an insurance policy, but we can't have a paramedic offshore just sitting in a hospital twiddling his thumbs waiting for something to happen. So they have to have that yes and can-do attitude. Can I help you with the POB? So our guys have a full slate of duties, administrative duties during the day, and if they have to switch their hat around and become a paramedic, they will. Quite often they work as a safety person or a paramedic, but that can do, yes, I'll cut the grass, yes, I'll clean the dugout, whatever, it goes a long way.
Well, it does, and really, and times change, right? Things are definitely not the same today as they were 32 years ago. So 32 years ago, if you wanted to coach, especially in college, you had to start from the ground up and work your way in and show somebody that number one, you wanted to work. Number two, you were able to work and be productive, so that someone would eventually want to pay for your services, right? I mentioned that first year still working on my degree. So you're working for, I don't want to say nothing, but as far as dollars and cents, you're working for nothing. But your payment back then was me finishing up my degree and getting that piece of paper just to say that I finished something. I started something and I finished. Mm-hmm. That's what college is, right?
Right.
In a sense, we started and we finish it. And then that 96 season as the volunteer, that's your title. So everyone knows you're the volunteer coach. So everyone knows you're not getting paid. So everyone can observe you and say, well, I understand why he doesn't do that much. He's not getting paid. Or I understand why he's doing so much, because he wants to get paid. He's right. Driven. He has drive. And I can remember there were 2 other undergrad assistant coaches that 95 season that I mentioned that I was a part of. And they were 2 of my teammates that I played with 2 or 3 years prior in college. And one was a pitcher, the other one was a position player. So Coach Robichaux, I remember, brought all 3 of us in, and he said, listen, he said, when the spring starts, he said, I stay in the dugout. I don't go out on the bases. So Coach Almaraz, who was our other assistant, he's going to go to third base, and one of you 3 are going to go to first base. I'm going to evaluate all 3 of you during the fall, and one of you 3 is going to go to first base in the spring. So we came out of that meeting, and I remember telling myself, so one of the guys, the position player, teammate of mine, he kind of wanted to just do things in the office. That was kind of his cup of tea. He really didn't want to be on the field. I'm like, okay, well, I can eliminate him because he doesn't want to be out there. He wants to be in the office. The other guy was a pitcher, good friend of mine, and I love pitchers. You know, in our profession, we say pitchers make the world go round because you have to have them, and you have to have good ones. So I love pitchers, but I remember telling myself, I'm not going to let a pitcher beat me out to coach first base, which is a job you do with the position players, the offensive side of the ball, right?
Right.
So I'm like, it's going to be me. It's going to be me. And I just did what I had to do, man. I mean, I worked my tail off, stayed there late, showed up early, just things to show Coach Robe and the rest of the coaching staff that I wanted to be there, and I was ready, I was willing, I was able. And sure enough, you know, we hit, I think, the holiday. I don't remember if it was over the holiday break or right when we got back for the spring. He said, Bab, you're going to go out to first base. And I remember going, just a little yes, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Just excited to kind of get my career started. And it you know, I've been blessed in many ways to have learned from, you talked about a mentor, and as leaders, we're mentors for young people, older people. I had the best one anyone could have in Tony Robichaux. You know, unfortunately, an untimely death in 2019, suffering from a heart attack. But 25 years I spent with him every day in the office, in the dugout, on the bus, you know, on the road, just learning from him and just his philosophy and his wisdom. And you know, he rubbed off on me, all of our players, and still today I use a lot of the things that he taught me with the way I and we handle kids in our program today.
Yeah, he was. I never had a chance to meet him or even watch a game that he coached, but he is so loved in the community at large, not just the baseball or athletic community.
Correct.
He is renowned, and when you mention his name in a group of people, there's always that, oh, Coach Robe, yeah, you know what I mean? So give me an example of some of the things that you borrowed or learned from him that you use today.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of go both on the athletic / player side, and then just the human side, kind of outside of baseball. The thing he had on the player side of it is he treated every player the exact same. It doesn't matter if it was players of ours that were projected to go high in the draft and were the Friday night guys of our rotation or the 3-hole hitter in our lineup, to the 35th man on the roster that hardly ever played. His sole role was to just make sure that he was a pusher in the dugout and that his attitude was right. It didn't matter who you were on the team. He treated you the same. There was never any preferential treatment. Now, you know, obviously in sports, like in life, everybody brings something different, right? And, you know, there's sometimes certain people get a little more leeway for things depending on what you bring. And that would happen some of the time, but hardly ever, because, you know, we had a situation. One of Coach's policies and rules were any arrest, didn't matter what it was for, you were suspended for a year. And over the course of the 25 years that he was with us, that probably happened 6 or 7 times. And a couple of times it was for, as I mentioned, the 35th man. A couple of times, one time it was for the best pitcher on our staff. And they had the same rules. I mean, they had to serve the suspension, sit out a year, you know, and if not often did they serve that suspension, they usually ended up leaving, going to another program, transferring. But a couple of times those guys would serve their suspension. And the ones that did that, they came back better because of it, you know? So that's kind of on the playing side. He would treat everyone the same. On the professional side, away from baseball, he always had time for anyone. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter when it was. I can remember, myself, and looking back on it now, I'm not that proud of it, but at the time, if someone would come in his office at 12:45 and we had practice at 1:00, he did not have the ability to say, hey, I'm sorry, we've got practice in 15 minutes. I've got to go and get ready for practice to make sure I'm out on the field. He didn't have the ability to do that. His ability was, hey, come on in. I've got a few minutes to give you. And those few minutes turned into 30, 45, and he was not out on the field when practice started, which, we would kind of get upset about. But looking back on it now, that's one of the reasons why he's so beloved. And you just mentioned, when you mention his name in the community, people say, oh my gosh, Tony Robichaux. It's not so much the baseball part of it.
Right.
It's everything else. It's the time he gave for everyone. It's the lessons he taught to everyone. He would say all the time, especially towards the end of his career, a baseball coach is what I do. It's not who I am. And he truly believed that, towards the later years of his life. So, and then I've taken so many lessons from him. I've tried to use them in my everyday life, both on the field with our players and just in general reaction with the general public, because I've seen firsthand how that works for you and how it makes people think of you and how you're revered,
right.
How we're revered as adults.
Yes, people that are fans of sports take things to heart in a way, like, they may be a fan of the stock market, but they don't yell at the stockbroker outside his office. But people get very passionate about sports,
right?
Decisions that are made in sports. Armchair quarterbacks always think they can do it better, or armchair pitchers, I guess, in this case. And I think it's interesting when you have Bill Belichick versus some other coach. He probably wasn't a bad guy. He was a terrible press conference guy. Right. But the people that played for him absolutely loved him and adored him, right?
Correct.
So that was his weakness. So he got, I guess, somewhat of a bad rap because his inability to play games with the press and stuff. And so when you're dealing with parents, I coached baseball when my son was playing from minor league all the way up to he decided to go down the route of drum corps. And the biggest problem I had was the parents. Sometimes their bias towards what needed to happen on the field overcame their ability not to fuss and make a scene on the side of the field. And it was bad for the kids. And I had to spend a lot of time talking to the parents, and this is Little League too, but before the games, during the games, making sure they knew, made sure I played all the players so everybody had a chance. But that was a job in itself, just handling the public at large, because quite often their passion gets ahead of their ability to say, maybe I should just sit here and let other people do their job.
Right. Yeah, everybody, we all think that we know what's best for our kids. And for the most part, a lot of times we do. But when it comes to sports, the sports arenas, no matter what sport it is, there's someone that that we're supposed to entrust with our kids, right? That's going to make great decisions for them that are in their best interest. And that's based off a lot of things, their physical ability, obviously, how they fit with the team, and these coaches, we're with them once, especially when you get to the college level, we're with them way more than they're with their parents at that point when they go off to college. So there's a lot of things that the parents don't see that are involved in the decisions that are made, by these college coaches. And they do take a lot of heat for some of these decisions, not just personnel decisions, but play calling and certain plays. But that's the sports arena, right? And it's so funny that you said we get mad at the stock market, but we don't go to the broker's office. Over the years, that's kind of a joke in, I guess, all coaches' offices, because people will come or try to come to the office all the time just to, unannounced, and just want to have a conversation and talk about, whether it be good or bad, a game that was played or a decision that was made. And we joke all the time. It's like we would love to have the ability to just go to somebody's office one day, knock on their door, sit down on the chair next to them and talk about the tax returns that they're doing.
Yeah.
Or some decision that they made,
right,
that may or may not have been good for the company, and just berate them, and holler like people holler from the stands. But that's the nature of the beast. We know that's what happens, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to just try to put all that out of, off to the side, especially when the season's going on, because it'll consume you if
Sure.
you try to listen to that. Then you start to think that maybe you should be doing it a certain way. A lot of coaching, it goes by gut and instincts. A lot of it is numbers that say this is the way it should be done and this is what's going to be successful. But a lot of it is gut, and like I said, everybody has their way of thinking things should be done. Moneyball
versus gut. You know what I mean?
Yes, correct.
Interesting. With the advent of social media, players, coaches have immediate access to everybody's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And that must have added an additional degree of difficulty, because the guy hollering in the stands, he's only in the stands during the game.
Mm-hmm.
But with social media, people...
He's 24/7
idiots
now.
can give their opinion all day. And I truly believe that we weren't meant to know everybody's opinions about everything. So how has social media affected the attitudes and the temperament of players and coaches? And do y'all stay off of it? Do y'all not look at it? How can it? Because I'm sure if a kid's having a rough time and he's doing well and he doesn't do well in a game and he gets on social media and he gets trashed by people that were fans 2 weeks ago when he hit a home run,
right,
that probably affects his mental status. So how do y'all deal with that?
Well, we tell them to stay off of it. I mean, bottom line. Now, obviously, we can only control that a certain amount. And basically, that control only goes to us telling them stay off of it.
Right.
Because we don't have their phones 24/7. So we urge them, encourage them to stay off of it, because, as you mentioned, the home run that was hit 2 weeks ago that was praised, the strikeout today, that's what's going to be talked and written about. And it conversely as well, if a player, if a team is doing very, very well, you can start to get caught up into, if you keep reading how well you're doing.
We're great.
Yeah, we're great. We can slack off a little bit. We don't have to work as hard. We don't need to practice today. This team we're playing, we're better than them. That can hurt you as well. So we urge them to stay off of it. Obviously, it pops up all the time because, the school, which rightfully so, puts out graphics, advertising games or promotions or things like that. So it pops up on your phone all the time. But we just hope and pray that they're staying off the message boards, and because there's people out there that are just trying to find any piece of information. Everybody wants the inside scoop, right? We all want to know what's going on with this company, that company, this person, that person. But I agree. You just said you don't believe that we were meant to know everybody's opinion.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, but it's tough for these guys, especially the way things are today. They just, when they become too separated from this device, some of these guys can go through withdrawals because it's just the way of the world today. So we try to get them to put it away a little bit when they come in, when they come into the clubhouse. There's a spot for it. It's not carry it to your locker. There's a spot for it. If you want to go to it, you have to go to that spot, you know, to read something, send a text, whatever. So we try to handle that as best we can, but it's basically just urging them and education on how it can be damaging to you, to your career. So, but it's so hard for guys these days. It really is, and gals that are athletes now, because when you and I played, man, once the game was done, what did we do? We went home, we ate supper, we did some homework, we went to bed, right? I mean,
we
that's
played baseball with our friends in the lot.
We played more.
Yeah.
Once we got home, if there was still, now, I was telling a story the other day. We were discussing potential rain or weather or canceling a game, and somebody said, well, you know, if the game gets altered or canceled, you know, what are the guys going to do? And I said, if the game gets canceled, don't worry about the guys. They'll have something to do. When I was their age and a game got canceled, I was mad as all get out because there was nothing else to do.
Right.
The game is what was to do. Now, game gets canceled, there's 50, it's an exaggeration, there's 10 other things that they can go do.
Right.
To occupy their time, to not be upset that the game is canceled. So it's just a different time, a different world. I think the athlete is just as driven. I really do. But there's just so many things tugging at them to make it seem to us who didn't have all these things, makes it seem as if they're not driven as they used to. But, you know, they really are. And you know, social media part, you just have to try to manage it as best you can.
Now, just one more question in the line of social media with the NIL thing that exists now.
Mm-hmm.
That's an inverse motivator because they would want to promote their name, image, and likeness in order to build their personal brand if they're a quality player, and that's part of. How is that affecting the mental status of the players in regard to the image of who they am? Yeah, that sounds good. Who they are.
Wrong letter, I think. R.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I think you saw in, you know, your mentor, Coach Bro, and maybe other people in your life, they were humbly confident, meaning they didn't brag. They were confident in their abilities. They didn't have a problem saying they could do this or do that. But it's very different from today's society of look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah. How
is that managed as a coach? That must be tough.
Well, it is. You mentioned Coach Robe, and Coach Robe didn't have to deal with NIL and the revenue share that we have now. And, you know, myself and our head coach now, Coach Deggs, who worked with me and Tony, you know, back in 2012, 13, and 14, me and Matt asked that question each other all the time, you know, like, what would Tony do in these times? How would he handle it, you know? But it's just a different aspect of the sport that has to be managed now. The money part of it, it's real. It really is. And it's something that the players know about. They know that it's a part of the game, and it's something that is brought up and they talk about on their recruiting visits. It used to be, you know, let me take a look at your facilities. Let me make sure I'm comfortable with the coaching staff. And that's all a part of it a little bit, but there's an added piece to it now is how much do you have to offer? And you know, for us guys that are a little older, and things were done a certain way, it's a tough pill to swallow when you get asked that question. But you have to adapt, or you won't be a serious player in athletics anymore.
Right.
You really won't. So, but you know, throughout the year, as we have meetings and try to lead these guys and try to mentor these guys, we just give them the best information possible as far as, and look, we're not talking about amounts of money that a financial planner has to come in to be able to manage.
Right.
Some schools, some athletes, some programs, we are. With us, we're not. I'm proud to say that we do take part in the revenue share for our athletes, and our athletes at UL are on some sort of compensation. But it's nothing that you need a financial planner for. But we just try to educate them with how to best save that money. We talk about investing, at an early age to try to make the money that you have now, if it's not needed, work for you a little later, once you finish, so that you're not starting from zero. So we just try to do that with our guys. We bring guest speakers in a lot. We have a spiritual coach that comes in once a month and does things with our players, and basically just giving them the tools so that when they get out of here, when they leave, because there's not many of them. When you talk about 34 guys on a roster that are going to get a chance to play professional baseball,
right?
And the ones that do get a chance to play professional baseball, the percentages go even further down that they're going to make it to the big leagues. So they've got to be prepared. They have to be equipped, and we try to give them all the tools necessary. We have some meetings. We call it baseball school whenever we're in the clubhouse, and we talk about either our next opponent or the opponent that we just had or something with our team. Sometimes it's not even about baseball. It's called baseball school, but it's, a certain scripture that we will introduce and expound upon, or something to deal with insurance or finances or just something like that, so that they can hear it. If it piques their interest, they can come to us for more information, and we can hook them up with somebody that can, give them some more tools of the trade so that they're as prepared can be once they leave us.
Well, it sounds like the NIL thing has created an unintended consequence in that as y'all have developed an education program that prepares them that didn't exist before. There was probably an education program to prepare them for life, but this forces your hand
right
to give them more education. How many times did you see players in the past, before NIL existed, they would go through college, top 10 draft pick, get that big signing bonus. Next thing you know, they got an entourage.
Right.
2 years in, they have some type of career-ending injury.
Yeah.
And then they bankrupt and they work in, delivering pizza somewhere. So hopefully the education program y'all putting in place will hit home. You're throwing out seeds, you're fertilizing those seeds with one of them to where they understand, and it'll make a difference in the next 10 years or 20 years of their life, where the crucial savings need to happen before they get to be our age, and they realize, oh, heck, I didn't do a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, because before NIL and rev share, you're correct. You didn't really you needed some knowledge of money and how it worked, but you didn't need the knowledge of it the way you do now, because you're making so much of it, some players, so much of it in college. You're absolutely correct. I know plenty of guys that once they get the signing bonus check, yeah, it might be for a good amount of money, but 9 out of 10 buy a new vehicle.
Oh yeah, they get a bunch of friends.
So let's just say that's $50,000. You help your parents if they need help. If you can, that's another few thousand, and before you know it, that $150,000 signing bonus check, which is a lot of money, is that it's 20,
Uncle
30,000.
Sam takes a piece,
right? Uncle Sam takes some. So that is, I guess, an unintended consequence that guys and gals have to be more educated with it now before they even, get that next, if they're a high draft choice, that next chunk of change. So I guess it can be a good thing.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about UL baseball right now. Y'all just started.
Yes.
What's the season looking like? Let's talk about what's coming up and what can people do to get involved?
Well, the season started last weekend. Opening day was February 13th, which was Mardi Gras weekend. So we played at home. So there were a lot of obstacles with the Mardi Gras Association taking over of the athletic one and Cajun Field. But everything worked. We had good crowds. One went 1-2 that weekend. So not the success that we wanted, but Saturday and Sunday swung the bat really well. We played Tuesday night at Rice, played a tremendous game, pitched unbelievably well, won 3-0. And this weekend, the season continues with Maryland. So we're 2-2 right now. We really like this team a lot. It's a tough team. It's a tight team. They're very, very talented. And when you have those three things, usually that translates into some success for you throughout the year. It's a tough league. The Sun Belt Conference is a very, very good baseball conference. Coastal Carolina in our league already have won a national championship back in 2016. Last year they were in the championship finals. Southern Miss is a great team in our program. Troy, South Alabama, Georgia Southern, and then us. We're always in the upper half towards the top of our league. So it's a very good baseball league. And then our non-conference schedule is good as well. Missouri State that came in last weekend, a very good baseball program. Maryland this weekend. We play California, San Diego next weekend, and then go to Dallas Baptist before the conference season starts. So it's in full swing. The funny thing about our season, it seems like it takes forever to get here, but then it finally gets here, and then you snap your finger, and then it's May, and you're in the conference tournament, and it's almost finished. So, but it's a very young season right now. But we like this team. We like what we think this team can do. We've got some very, very good young freshman players that are starting for us. Catcher behind the plate by the name of Colt Brown, a freshman at shortstop. Blaze Rodriguez, freshman in center field by the name of Noah Lewis. A couple of freshmen on the mound. One, a left-handed pitcher from right here in Lafayette. Hayden Pearson, another freshman. Bryce Wilson, a left-handed pitcher. So we've got some young kids that are really, really contributing to us, that when you talk about the NIL and rev share that we just talked about, the goal obviously is to keep these kids, but we know how the game is played, and there's other schools that come in and offer more money. So, we've got to make sure that we continue to, and we get a small portion of money of revenue share from the school, but we have to raise a lot of it. And we're raising money not just for revenue share for the players, but we're raising money for our foundation accounts to make sure that the program has the things it needs to travel and to operate, to help offset our state budget. So we're raising money for that. And so it takes a lot. It really does. But hopefully, these kids will stay here. If you win, winning does two things, right? I mean, winning attracts others. It makes you look better. You're more marketable, just like this business here. You do well, you win, people want to be a part of it. Same thing in athletics. You win, you as a player become more marketable. So you pique interest in other teams that can pay for the product.
You get noticed.
So there's that part of it. But winning with these players, winning championships, the culture that's created within the team can sometimes keep that player here at home. So, that's the hope, obviously, is that they get as good as they can, because that helps the team. They learn all these lessons that we're trying to teach them along the way, and they have a great experience and want to stay here. And now we understand that the better these players do, the more we have to come up with. So that's why, fundraising and marketing for us it's an everyday job. It really is. And that's why it's so important. Dr. Maggard, our athletic director, he says all the time to our athletes, to all of our head coaches, our assistant coaches, and all of our staff meetings, he says you never take off the brand, because the community knows who the coaches are, who the players are. We may not know every single person out in the community, but if people come to our events, they know who we are. Yes. So he says, you're never taking off the brand. You may not be wearing the Raging Cajuns logo, but
you're representing the university.
Representing the university.
You're an
so
ambassador.
That's why it's important for, staff, all of the athletes. when they're away from the arenas to conduct themselves in a manner that is respectful, so that a potential season ticket holder or a potential donor will want to invest in the university in a certain program so that we can keep these players here.
Yeah, great point. And I think that's a great way to sum it up. You know, we'll put the link to the ways you can get involved in UL athletics, not just baseball, but all of them. Baseball program is a great program. They have a great stadium. It's comfortable. It's affordable. And I encourage everybody to go take in a couple of games this season if they get a chance. Thanks, Coach.
And this was fun. I really
talking to you.
Appreciate that. Yes, absolutely.
And if anybody else on your staff wants to come by and do this and promote it during the season, be cool. Maybe we can get a player in here or something, a couple of players, and have some conversation. That'd be great.
I think that would be pretty neat. They would enjoy that.
All right, Coach.
All right, man. Thanks
See you
so
next
much.
time.
You bet. Thanks for having me.